Thank you. I want to thank you. I see a lot of faces that I saw before. I did have the privilege of speaking to this group 2 or 3 months ago, not as a candidate, although I was a candidate, but about what is going on here in not only the state of California, but here in Orange County with the criminal justice realignment. And if any of you are interested in some of those details, I think it was about like a 45-minute long presentation that has been videotaped, and I think you can find it on the website. I did want to come here tonight, though, to talk a little bit about my candidacy and the fact I am running for Superior Court Judge here in Orange County. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. I want to tell you about where I've been, and then I want to tell you about where I'm going fairly briefly here. You know, judges are the secret, powerful people here in this state and in this county. And I think many of the people in this room are aware of that already, but a lot of people don't pay attention to that and don't think about that. You know, let's face it, there's a single judge in the city of Sacramento, or county up there, who stopped the governor from using bond money to pay for that bullet train. Now, the governor is trying to finagle different ways to do it, but that was a big, crippling step. And there's one guy in a black robe that stopped that. Of course, by the same token, one man or woman in a black robe can do a lot of harm. And that's happened in a lot of cases in this state, as you've seen. So the reason I'm here is to talk a little about me and see what you think. The United States Supreme Court has 9 justices. And when they get a case, they get the law before them, and it's the same law. I move around because I'm a trial lawyer, and I don't work in federal court, so I'm used to moving a little bit. It's the same law. They don't get like a different sheet. They get the same statutes, and of course they get the United States Constitution. And the facts of the case are the same facts. They don't vary. What's written down is what they see. Every single justice gets the same information. And yet, what do we get? We get decisions that are 7-2, 5-4, 6-3. So why does that happen? These are all reasonable men and women, we believe. They're all educated. They've all been judges and lawyers in their respective states over the years, and they've risen to this post, and yet they have differences of opinion, and it's the same law and the same facts. And I think part of that is where they come from and what their worldview is, and their worldview is based on what their lives have been like and what they've done with their lives and how they've grown up. And so I want to share a little bit about that, my life with you, just so you understand where I'm coming from. My father was in the United States, and I'm not trading on my father's history, but I do want to know where I come from. My father was in the United States Navy during World War II, and he served aboard the heavy cruiser USS Indianapolis as a machinist mate, and that's his cruiser that delivered the atom bomb to the island of Tinian for eventual drop on Hiroshima. And he spent his entire career in the Navy during the war on that ship from before Pearl Harbor until it was sunk in the Pacific. And because he was, well, his name was Ferguson like mine, so he was Scottish. That meant he was in the engine room. That's where Scottish people wind up, is in the engine rooms of ships. And he was awake when the first torpedo hit at midnight because he just came off watch. So he survived. But he stayed in the Navy, and he was on a destroyer in Korea, and then he was a commander of a minesweeper squadron in Japan. And the reason I tell you all of that is he stayed in the Navy, so I grew up in the Navy. I'm a Navy brat. So I grew up on naval bases and seeing ships and instilling in me a respect for the military and for our country. And when my family moved here to Orange County in 1962, I became a local boy here, and I've been here ever since. And I went to the University of California at Irvine, and at that time, I was the regional director for Young Americans for Freedom, if some of you know that organization. And we were some of the few people in this county that were out there standing there fighting the SDS, who were the Students for Democratic Society, when they were trying to burn flags and actually successfully burnt the Bank of America at UCI. So that's sort of where I came from. So I grew up in that kind of a family, and I've been Republican since the time I could vote, and I was, as I said, with YAF. And after that, graduated from the university with a Bachelor of Science degree in Biology, Bachelor of Arts in Social Ecology, and I went into business. And I was a graphic designer, speaking of graphic design earlier today. I was a graphic designer and a creative director for a company called Imagery. So I spent a few years writing checks, in managing a business and paying the State Board of Equalization their taxes, so I know what that's like. Then I went to law school here in Orange County and graduated cum laude, and I became a district attorney virtually right after I got out of law school. And I've been a DA as of February for 31 years here in this county. Now, I can't retire because I have I'm 30. Well, I do. I have a 28-year-old kid, Kevin, but I also have a 13-year-old, so I can't retire because of a 13-year-old. But that's sort of where I came from. As a district attorney, I've done a lot of interesting things. I've practiced in every single courthouse in this county. I'm the first prosecutor in the state of California to ever convict a member of the Mexican Mafia of the Street Gang Terrorism Act. That opened the door for prosecutors from north to south in this state to bring strike allegations against Mexican prison gang members and extend their sentences and bring them under a lot of strict scrutiny. I'm also the first prosecutor in the state of California to convict any member of an outlaw motorcycle gang of the same Street Terrorism Act, exposing them to strikes and exposing them to long prison sentences up and down the state so other prosecutors can use my conviction as what they call predicates to assist them. So that's sort of where I've come from. I want to tell you about my judicial philosophy. I'm a constitutionalist. That should come as no surprise when you learn what my background was. I mean, I've read that document more than once, and I believe I understand that document. And I think one of the big problems we have is a lot of judges we have these days, not all, but way too many do not look at their cases through the constitutional lens. And that's one thing I can promise you I will do. I'm not afraid to tell you that I'm pro-Second Amendment. I was very gratified when the United States Supreme Court agreed with me in the Heller case, but I've been that way for a long time. I disagree with the Elko case. Those of you who don't know what that means is I believe in private property. So I do not believe in the eminent domain taking of private property from individuals and businesses to give it to other people and other development agencies that have nothing to do with the public good. Eminent domain was designed to take property that the government could demonstrate was serving the public good if they had to cure blight. That's not what has happened in recent years in that. So that's another area that I'm very concerned about. I do not believe that any foreign law has any application in the United States court that conflicts with the Constitution under any circumstances. So that is basically what my judicial philosophy is. The things I'm worried about, the things I'm very concerned about, where do I want to go with this as a judge? I'm very concerned about victims' rights, the rights of crime victims here in this state. I've been doing this 30 years, and I can tell you that the court system always has added insult to the original injury that the victims have suffered. That insult comes in a lot of different ways. It comes in unnecessary court continuances that go on and on and on and subject the victim to a lot of anguish from the beginning. It has previously, earlier on, prevented victims from participating in the criminal justice system, ignoring them, ignoring what they felt, what they wanted to say, what they wanted to tell a court about how they felt about sentencing. They changed the law. They added a constitutional amendment to the California Constitution called Marsy's Law. And with Marsy's Law, it was designed to guarantee victims the right to step forward in open court and a judge have him listen or her listen to the feelings and the pain that the victim suffered. How has the victim's life been changed? How has the victim's family's life been changed and their friends? The problem is, in real world, it doesn't work. And I'm going to tell you why it doesn't work. The problem with that is the cases get continued over and over and over again. And we're obligated as prosecutors to tell the victims when that case is in court. But it doesn't matter if I tell you, hey, it's in court tomorrow and there's a pretrial. Nothing's going to happen, but there's a pretrial. And then it happens again and again and again. And none of you can attend because you have jobs. You have children at home. You can't go to court every 2 weeks or 3 weeks on these pretrials when nothing is happening, at least on the surface. So that's a key issue. Now think about this for a minute. We don't have enough judges and enough lawyers, or maybe we have plenty of lawyers. We don't have enough judges and enough people to bring every single case to trial. We just can't do it. What that means is these cases settle. It's called plea bargaining, and it happens every day, and it's going to keep happening. There's no way to really stop it, not practically speaking. 90% or better of all criminal cases plea bargain because there's not enough room to try these. There's not enough courtrooms. So 95% of these cases plea bargain away. What that means is the defense lawyer and the prosecutor either make an agreement about what the sentence is going to be, or sometimes the judge gets involved and the DA and the defense attorney go into chambers, judges' chambers, and sit there and discuss the case, and the judge makes suggestions and they go back and forth, and they kind of all come to an agreement about what are we going to sentence this individual to for whatever crime they've committed. Now, that might sound, oh, that's kind of an efficient way to do things, but think about it for just this 1 minute. What defense lawyer in his or her right mind is going to plead guilty unless they know what is going to happen to their client? What defendant is going to plead guilty unless he knows what's going to happen? So by the time a defendant agrees he's going to plead guilty, that's when you call up the victim and say, come on in, he's going to plead guilty and we're going to have a sentencing. So what's wrong with this picture? The deal has already been made. The deal has been made, and it's made in all of these cases. And the DA is complicit in that, as is the defense lawyer, and fundamentally so is the judge who accepts it. But the judge is under an obligation under the Constitution to listen to what the victim has to say. So when the victim comes in, or the victim's family comes in, or their friends come in and spill out their pain and anguish in that open courtroom, it's all just an act for the court. It's a show. It's a show the victims don't even know is going on. Well, I think that's wrong, and I think that has to change. And a judge doesn't have to do that. A judge can say, look, I'll listen to what you guys want to talk about, but I'm not making any decisions. So next week, let's bring the victim in, and I want to hear the victim. So that's one of the things I'm very concerned about and that I plan to do as a judge. The second thing, I see you standing up, so I'm aware of that. That's all right. The second thing is, you heard me talk, or many of you heard me talk about the criminal justice realignment. It's a big, long story, and it has a lot of moving parts. But one of the key things about it is there are 600 felonies that you used to go to prison for, like car theft or auto burglary or window smash burglaries of a business where someone breaks your window out in the middle of the night, steals all the electronics. They will not go to prison anymore under the California Justice Realignment. Instead, they're sentenced to long terms in jail, burdening our counties with housing and giving mental health treatment and medical treatment and food service to these people. The problem is the sheriff doesn't want these people in the jail either because they can't manage those people for a long time. So one of the parts of this law said it created something called split sentencing. And split sentencing is when a guy has stolen his 12th or 15th car and he gets sentenced, let's say, to 4 years in prison because he's a habitual offender. This isn't some guy who's made a mistake. He's been around the block. When he gets 4 years in prison, it's not really in prison, it's in 4 years in jail. But they don't want him to stay in jail 4 years. That's just too much of a trouble. So they have empowered judges to do what's called split sentencing. That means a judge can say, I'm going to sentence you to 4 years, of which I'm going to have you do 6 months in county jail, and the rest of your prison sentence, which ordinarily would be someplace like, up in San Quentin, the rest of that time we're going to put you out on the street, and we're going to let you get day-for-day credit for what you otherwise would have served in prison. That's called split sentencing. Now, that helps to reduce the load on our jails, but the question is, there are some people that don't deserve the split sentencing. And by the way, when you get 6 months in jail, you only serve 50%. So of the 6 months that he's going to be in jail, it's really only 90 days. It's only half, and he gets credit for the other, and then he's out for the rest of his sentence on the street. Some people belong in jail for the time that they're sentenced. Judges do not have to do split sentencing. Now, that doesn't mean everybody, but I think it's important as a judge to really evaluate that and be prepared to make the hard calls to keep people in jail that need to stay in jail. And it's not about being tough. It's about knowing this. I can't, every single day that somebody who does crimes over and over and over and over again, who's demonstrated that, every day they're in a cell is a day they're not going to make a new victim. I don't know who that new victim would be. I don't know how many of them there might be. But I can tell you there won't be any when those individuals are in a cell. Now, I'll just finish by saying, if you take a look at the video of my full presentation on realignment, you'll discover that I'm not a crazy throw them all in jail individual. I recognize that a lot of these people need mental health treatment, need drug rehabilitation. It's not about putting everybody in jail, but it's about putting the right people who need to be in jail and back in prison. So all I'm going to ask you for is this. Obviously, I'd like your vote. At some point in time down the road, please go to my website, learn more about me. I would like you to tell your friends about me. And in this, it's a county-wide race. That means anywhere you live in Orange County, you can vote for the judge. It doesn't matter, there's no district, there's no assembly district connection or anything else. It's county-wide. I need to get name recognition because I can't talk to everybody. Not everybody in the county is in this room. So I have been doing kind of a fun thing. I've given out these to people and they're kind of fun. They're magnetic so they don't scratch your car. And if any of you want any, you're welcome to have them. And later on, if you look me up and you decide you want one after that, give me a call. And there's a phone number, there's some cards I put back there, you know, my little brochures. There's a phone number on there. That phone number rings in my cell phone.